Hey, today in this video, we're going to be talking about peel and stick wallpaper, which is a super easy renter-friendly way to really transform your space. I'm going to show you 3 rooms that I've enhanced with some wallpaper and some of the techniques that I used. And when I first moved into this apartment building, it's about 2 years ago, which time really does fly. It had a lot of potential. It was all blank white walls and a lot of space and sunlight, which was really amazing and lucky to find here in the city. Here you can see me dancing when I first moved in, and I made a video on that, but this is about the wallpaper. So I started off in the dining space, which this room started with me adding my art that I had and then updating this light fixture with a paper mache technique that I used. And as I'm going through the space and really adding my personal touches, I decided to add some wallpaper here, which I found on Amazon, and I knew I just had to have it because it was so fun. I really do love texture and bold patterns. And I do recommend for anyone, even if you're living in a rental, to find ways to make the space your own, because I do believe that if you're happy in the space that you live in and it feels homey to you, then it can put you in a better mood. It uplifts your spirit. I do think that the environment that you live in is also tied to your emotions as well. I will share my technique that I use for pulling up wallpaper soon, but also I need to state, do not use a swivel chair to put up wallpaper. I struggled so hard trying to do this, and it is not safe, but it's all that I had. So that's what I had to use to get up that high on these walls, because they are pretty tall. I'm gonna fast forward the process in this room, boom, to the finished product, because it did take a couple of hours. And look at Miss Susan, she's thrilled. But something that I've noticed with bigger patterned wallpaper is it's a bit more difficult to line up the pattern exactly, especially for something like this. You will notice if it's off by a little bit. You don't get as much leeway as if the pattern is smaller, and you can kind of hide your mistakes a little easier. So that's something to keep in mind if you do want to go bolder and bigger with the pattern. So a lot of the time spent was lining up the pattern and trimming and making sure everything's aligned. But after I got it all up, it really did bring the space to life. Really bold, really eccentric and fun. Every time I walk into this room, I just feel a sense of joy. So I really do love how this room turned out. On to the living room. So this one was a little bit more tricky for me to figure out what I wanted to do in this space. I already had a lot of elements that were pretty colorful, and looking at the wallpaper I put up in the dining room, I actually did love it so much that I put it up in this room as well. And I'll say, I know this isn't everybody's style, but I want to make this video to encourage people to go outside the box, add more color, add more patterns, textures, and really have fun with their spaces. It seems like nowadays so many design choices are more neutral, and which there's a lot of beauty in that as well, and it's simplistic and classic, but I also can't help myself but to go outside of the box of that. It's time to talk about technique. So I thought a great example of this would be this back wall behind the fireplace that's in the living room. And I got this wallpaper that looks like a wooden texture, and I wanted to put it behind my TV. So you want to take your roll and line it up from the very top to the bottom, and then crease that bottom edge. And if it has this backing with the grid system, it makes it so easy just to cut along this grid line where I creased it, and then I get a perfect matchup. And I, from there, can just keep making the same sized roll of that because the wall doesn't differ in height. Patterns like this make it so easy to just duplicate the same length of roll because I don't have to worry about lining up the pattern exactly. So there's different heights that I need to cut for. With something as simple as this, I just have one size fits all and just line up all along the seam of that black line. So from there, I just keep cutting as many strips that I need to fit that wall, cutting that same measurement, and then I can easily just pop up the wallpaper on the wall. And you just start from the top, line it up to that top crowning, and just slide it on down. You can use like a tool for this or a credit card or something like that, but I just use my hand. So here's the before and after. And it really warmed the space up for me, and not just because I put a fire on the TV. But you can see, so I needed to just go in and add my stuff back to the bookshelf. I will say one of the negatives for this wallpaper is it started to peel off, and that sucks so much. It's not that bad, but I do have to go and like press it back to the wall every now and again. So not the best quality on this wallpaper, but I still like the way that it looks. Speaking of removing wallpaper, I was debating if I should even put this in this video, but I think I can expose myself. I want to show that the first idea isn't always the best idea. So this is what it looks like now, but it used to look like this. So I had a green wallpaper that I had up, and I put this all over the living room. It took me about 5 rolls of that stuff, and it wasn't too expensive. I mean, each roll was like 15 bucks. And if you compare that to the price of paint for a color like this, and then having to prime and taking it all back to white when you have to move out, it would be the same equivalent of just buying paint. But again, this is a renter-friendly place. I can't paint anything, so I decided to put up this wallpaper. But as a crazy person, I put it all up and I did all this work. Like, I'm telling you, this took days. Like, I had to take breaks. It was a work in progress for about 2 weeks because I had to start and stop, but I really took the time to go around all the crown molding. So you can see it here. So I went all around this living room with this stuff, and at the end of the day, when I saw it, it was just way too dark. So I ended up taking it all down. I didn't record that process, but I just went pretty slow with it, took it down. It was fine. This isn't my first rodeo. When you take down wallpaper, it can chip some of your wall paint. So it's really simple just to go to your local paint store and get a paint match for the wall. So you're gonna want like a piece of the wall that's about 1/4 big, and you just go, you get some paint, they'll make the perfect match for you, and you can go home and just like fill in those little patches. Like I said, it's not anything crazy. I had like a handful of spots where some of the paint was gone, but it's easy enough just to go in with some spackle. I was using this at first, but I found an even better product that I used that turned from pink to white and was more thicker, that worked a lot better. So I used that. You're going to put that on there and then sand it off, and it creates a really smooth finish. You just paint over it and your walls look brand spanking new. So real simple. And so I know what you're thinking at this point. You're like, this lady just wasted all this wallpaper in that living room. But no, I didn't. I actually took it off and I hung it in the hallway, waiting to put it up in my bedroom. So I was like, I'm going to reuse this stuff. My bedroom was already kind of small, and I wanted it to be kind of dark when I go to sleep, so it's not as bright. So I thought putting up this wallpaper in here would be a better fit to create more of a moody space. So I definitely went around and I put up that wallpaper, and I found something else that I was so excited for. It was this like tiger print that I found on Amazon again, but it was just so unique and fun. Actually, my Chinese zodiac is a tiger because I was born in 1998. So I felt like this connection to this wallpaper, so I wanted to put this up in my room. For a pattern like this, surprisingly, it was actually easier to put up than that black and white squiggle stuff because it's so busy. It's almost like easier to get away with things that don't line up perfectly. Like if from afar it looks okay, but if you get kind of close with some of the line work on this wallpaper, the tiger's face kind of looks all morphed. But I did my best, and at this point I've been putting up wallpaper for weeks, so I'm like kind of sick of it. So I just like, let me put it up so that it looks decent. So you can see from afar, you can't tell the difference. It like lines up pretty nicely, so that's all that matters to me. Yeah, so I was happy I was able to reuse that wallpaper. I was able to get that moody feel that I want. I like that this room is more darker, especially at night. It lets me go to sleep easier. So here are just some final shots of the spaces with the wallpaper, and I want to encourage anyone in their own home or a rental, like, don't be afraid to make the space your own, even if it's temporary. I had to move a lot in my life, and every time I really embraced making the space my own. So even in my adult years, I still continue to really put my stamp on a space and not be afraid to make it yours. I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching.